G'day, Edge of my heart here with Rafie right here. Hey, Rafe. And Jakey's laying over here. Jakey's a little bit punked today. Whoops. Jakey's had the runs and not to, just like a dog liking to run. And Buffy's in her crate after a lot of exercise. Anyway, so I thought I might just do this video about BPD and people with BPD, though they're not all the same. But I continue to get all these lovely comments and from people with BPD who continue to say that I'm doing this, that, or the other thing to us, to those of us with BPD, they say. So while I go to great lengths to, I'm honest about BPD and for loved ones, but for people with BPD who are ready to hear my message too and want to grow and want to get out of that capital V consciousness that many are never going to get out of, unfortunately. So here's the thing. Yeah, I'm just going to see if I can find this comment today. But today was like a really good day for the people with BPD representing the rest of people with BPD. Not too graciously, not too nicely, and very not kindly, because they're really just bullying abusive people, some of them with BPD. And then they feel like they want to gift me with sharing their thoughts, in other words, their judgments, and their toward me and of me, and their right fighting. Oh, well, c'est la vie, and sort of like to the one comment, I don't know how long ago that one was, because sometimes there's a lot, sometimes there aren't many. But I guess what people with BPD who are inclined to be the trollish types need to know from me is, bring it on, keep it coming, I don't care, I got a delete button, I'm not interested. You don't bother me, and frankly, all you do is shoot yourself in the foot. I work with people with BPD. I have empathy for people with BPD. I tell the truth about BPD. So what you need to ask yourself about that, and what you don't like in my videos, or, whatever you don't like about me, matters not to me, because you do not know me, nor am I here to gain popularity, or become famous, or be well liked by everybody, especially with BPD. Though there be some people, even loved ones, who get annoyed with me from time to time. Because the message is going to be honest, true, knowledgeable, and very much keeping it real about borderline personality. So this is me sort of, I don't know, there's a lot about this is confusing, but I think loved ones might learn something from this, in the sense that what I get in trolling, bullying, abusive commentary from people who identify themselves to me as borderlines or having BPD, so I'm not guessing. And this comment is like pretty bland in comparison to many others. I'm old. I'm so fat. I can't stop eating. I should just shut up. And those are just some. And I'm an effing this and an effing that. Nah. So there you go. Anyway, it don't matter to me. So take your best shot and keep at it. And if it makes you feel better about yourself, well, you might want to think about kind of how sad that is. But that's up to you. So this commenter commented on my video, which was borderline manipulation, and does, quote, why, unquote, matter? Does it matter if they're manipulating or manipulative somebody with BPD in your life? Does it matter? Is it the intent or is it the impact that matters most to loved ones? And some loved ones may be really empathic and compassionate to begin with, but most would eventually come to say the impact outrides the intent all the time. So even if people with BPD don't manipulate in ways, I talked about it in that video, but even if they don't manipulate in ways with the intent to do harm and so forth to people that are trying to love them in the name of, quote, love, unquote, dare I touch the third rail, because the third rail that really brings out the BPD bullies, because they're also well behaved, right? No, they're not. And I'm not saying this is everybody with BPD, but just look at the sampling experience I have here. this is, I think, part of what my message is here today. So I'm just a YouTuber. I'm talking about BPD. I'm empathic to both sides. My videos are mainly for loved ones, etc., but I'm explaining BPD. Therefore, anybody who has BPD, many people interact with me, the channel. People come along, and because they've seen my videos, they become clients of mine with BPD. How could that possibly be, right? Well, see, this is what the other people with BPD don't get. So I guess they're not all the same, right? I mean, I'm not saying they are all the same, but the point is, some people come along in readiness, and maybe they're in therapy already, and so sometimes they just make comments, and they thank me for my videos, and they say back what they're dealing with, and etc. in their comments, which I think is really helpful and educational. It's helpful for them. It could be educational to loved ones. Loved ones could be educational to people with BPD, and I'm sitting here in the middle. So I just want to say to those of you with BPD who can't control yourselves at all, and you don't have any personal responsibility, and you think it's fine and cool to say whatever the heck you want to somebody that you don't even know, well, do what you got to do. I don't care. It's not going to make me go anywhere. It's not going to make me shut up. I don't care what you call me. Doesn't matter. It says everything about you and nothing about me in my mind, because I don't know you and you don't know me. So that's kind of like part of the BPD world that I know I don't have to explain to a lot of people who are loved ones or exes of someone with BPD, because they treated you way worse than I can claim to be being treated here, right? Because it's not that consequential to me. I'm just pointing it out for that point. This commenter, I said, what is your background in BPD? Educational, etc. And I say back to the commenter with BPD, what do you care? You don't seem to think I know anything, because at the end of your comment, you said that people with BPD, 2 people with BPD, if you want to follow a person that is extremely knowledgeable about BPD, well, then follow Dr. Marsha Linehan. I don't think she's a regular YouTuber, but because she created DBT. Well, yes, she did. And yes, she's very knowledgeable. And, she's also someone who's recovered from borderline personality disorder. Because this is something that, again, this person with BPD that commented doesn't believe can happen. You know what I think is happening for a lot of people with BPD out there? They are believing the narrative of psychiatry, and you'd wonder why. Why would they want to listen to psychiatry that says you have to go with some medication? It's not really for BPD or anything, but take it anyways, because it's going to help you, but it isn't really. But but you can never recover. And you're always going to have this, and it's a life sentence, and we proclaim it, and we pathologize you with it. We don't care about the humanity of who you are with BPD. Psychiatry, this is. They don't care about that you've experienced a lot of trauma in your life and that it's a trauma-based response. No, they don't care about any of that at all. So, anyways, apparently to this person with with BPD, I don't know anything. Okay, so that's their perspective. And I would just say to them, then why are they watching my videos, right? Hey. So as to what my background in BPD is, education, etc., well, I don't think you're asking with a very genuine interest. And secondly, I will say my background with BPD goes more to the fact that I had BPD and I recovered from BPD fully in 1995, actually closer to early 90s, but I was still in therapy, and I was really kind of there. But I got reassessed in 1995, and the therapist said I had recovered. So I didn't just make that up. And the point is, recovery from BPD is very possible. But I'm starting to realize the more of these comments I get, and this comment is not that bad compared to a lot of the ones I get, they're not even worth talking about, because they're just, you effing blah, 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 blah. And like I said, oh yeah, I'm fat, and I can't stop eating. And by the way, I'm maybe 30, 40 pounds overweight, yes. Always kind of had a little bit of extra 20 pounds. This is so irrelevant, right? But adrenal fatigue and issues like that and whatever. But I'm 62 years old. I'm doing pretty damn good. And then there was a comment that said, well, I'm really old and I look really awful. And I'm not looking very healthy, and so hopefully I'll be dead soon. You people, you can have your fantasies and you can wish, but guess what? I think I'm going to be here for a long time saying shit you don't like. Not because you don't like it, not because I'm taunting you, but because my message to you with BPD out there today is you can change your life, but you don't want to take responsibility. You don't want to know that, but it's probably overwhelming to you. It's Unfortunately and tragically, and loved ones, please note this, in case it fits with what you're going through with someone in your own life. Not all people with BPD are the same, so I'm not speaking about all people with BPD, but a really big percentage of them, they're now using, why would they believe psychiatry's narrative? Why would they want to think that this is just going to be my life and it's going to suck forever? Well, I got to thinking about that a little bit, and I think the answer is because it lets them off the hook if they choose that route of believing nonsense and pseudoscience, because then they don't have to try, and then they get to remain victims forever. How comfortable? Sort of not, really, but yes, kind of. So anyway, I'm just telling it like it is, people, and I mean no disrespect to anyone with BPD or a loved one, or somebody who's trying to work out a relationship with somebody with BPD. I wish everybody the best. I really do. So my background with BPD would be that I had it and that I recovered from it. And yes, I have education, etc., which I'm not really going to bother with here, because what informs me mostly about BPD is knowing it from the inside out. But yes, I have a lot of education. So you said this commenter said your videos are extremely insulting to us with BPD. So on this point, I'd like to personally say, why is it that I notice, anyways, that these people, and this isn't the worst of comments, I'm not saying that at all, and this person can feel whatever they want and say whatever they want, and but like, as do others anyways, right? But those are not even worth addressing because they're just absolutely abusive. That my videos are whatever to all people with BPD. Don't you realize, commenter with BPD, that you're not all the same? Remember that part? So why is it that people like yourself with BPD feel like you can speak for everybody with BPD when you are saying that, you said, quote, your videos are extremely insulting to us with BPD? Well, if that's how you find it, if that's how you judge it, if that's what it is for you. But I don't think you have the right to say that that's what it is for, or my videos even, but I don't, that's fine. Not everybody with BPD feels like you do. And I'm always making the point that not everybody with BPD is the same. And yet this gives me the opportunity to speak to the reality that the core trauma of attachment trauma and abandonment, the core wound of abandonment in BPD, everybody with BPD has this thread of core common trauma in 75% of cases and response to that trauma. So you get very predictable people with BPD out there to somebody like myself who's had it and recovered. So I know the inner workings of it, and I know when you're pulling your stuff and when you're manipulating and when you're not. And I can't know everything about every single individual, but this really helps me in amazing ways to help people with BPD who want to recover. And that's probably why they work with me, as do loved ones, to help them recover from relationship breakups, or some people still working to try to work on their relationships. And there are people working really hard to try to work on relationships, and I support that also. And I think right now on my community tab, the video that's got the most votes for me to do is why BPD relationships often don't work. And so there's a million reasons, but I'll probably be looking at the top 5 or something like that. But that I will be doing that soon. I just want you to know I'm paying attention. So anyway, this commenter says, I'm insulting to all people with BPD. Well, dear commenter with BPD, who judges me, etc., as is your right to do. You can't speak for all with BPD any more than I can. So what's that about? Is there a secret tribe somewhere that the rest of us don't know about? Of people with BPD? You said, it seems to me that you are bashing people that are suffering in ways that you could never put into words. Well, I rewatched that video after I read your comment, and I, for the life of me, can't see what you're talking about. I really just can't. And the other thing is, and I do look, because if I was bashing people with BPD, I wouldn't want to be doing that, but I'm actually not. But if that's your lens, your point of view, if that's, who am I representing to you right now? Who are you feeling really, truly victimized by that you're transferring on to me, perhaps? I don't know. So I'm not bashing people with BPD at all. There are channels that do that. I hope that you're giving them your opinions too. And everybody else that trolls me. I don't think you're a troll. I think you're just, you're a person communicating with at least a modicum of, not necessarily respect, but it's civility, yes, from your point of view. And then you said that are suffering in ways that I could never put in words. Well, Kelly, yes, I could put it in words. I had BPD. I know what it's like to have BPD. I know what it's like to have the childhood of the 75%. I had a BPD, NPD comorbid mother, alcoholic, and a father, dark triad, alcoholic, and other relatives in the family with BPD or NPD, a couple of psychopaths, other things. And the point is, the good news for me is I left that behind years ago, but I'm here to explain it to help people on both sides. Empathic to both sides, work with clients on both sides. And I've said it before and I'll say it once more. I don't do videos much aimed for people with BPD, but the explanations I give to loved ones are there for people with BPD, because people with BPD just kind of like are watching each other that have BPD, and younger people, and that's cool. Not everybody with BPD is younger, but whatever. And so I could put the suffering into words. Yes, I could. And actually, I might be doing some of that, but unfortunately, I'm going to be doing it on a website I'm creating right now, and it's not going to be free. So for people with BPD that really want to understand more, and for people with BPD that really want to know what my recovery was like and how I got it done and how real it really is, there will be something coming for people soon, but it's not going to be free. It's not going to be here on YouTube, because YouTube just isn't the platform to do that without every other person abusing the living crap out of you while you show vulnerability. So I could just describe very well and put into really accurate words that you would find would touch your situation too, Kelly, with BPD. I know what it's like to suffer from BPD, but you know what's different between me and you and many other people like you with BPD or relatively like you? I never looked at it like I was a BPD sufferer, because luckily all this happened to me before the internet and social media. And these narratives that people like yourself are locked into that aren't helping you. So I was in a lot of pain. I was hurting a lot. I had a really rough time, obviously. But I journaled and I journaled and I journaled, and it's all in those journals, and I could describe it ad infinitum right now. Not out of my head, though, because it's so long ago since I recovered, and I truly have left it behind. But I will be dredging some of it up. Not that it's going to be emotional for me now, but in talking about. But anyways, I don't want to make this video too long. So then the commenter said, so I could put it into words, just so you know. So I don't know what you're going to do with that reality, but you'll just say, oh, I don't believe you recovered. Because that's what people with BPD do, who don't believe in recovery. Each to their own, whatever. Whatever you need, by all means, believe that. And you said no one would choose this. No, nobody does choose to have BPD, because it's a trauma response in 75% of cases. And, sensitive temperament and some kind of abandonment perception that is as real as if they, in a 25% of those diagnosed with BPD. And you said DBT therapy is the only therapy that is effective and good luck finding insurance to cover it. Well, you seem to have a lot of pessimistic negativity going on there. You might want to maybe see if you can challenge that if you're in DBT therapy. I don't know. But anyway, DBT is not the only therapy that is effective for BPD. It might be the first line modality that helps people with BPD, but it is not the recovery model for DBT. And I'll get to that in a minute, because your comment, yeah. You said you make videos about people with BPD and they are, for the most part, extremely negative. Your perception. So that's your perception. There are many people with BPD who are my clients today from watching these very same videos, and the one video in which you left this comment on. So how do you explain that? Because you're not all the same, even though you're trying to speak for all people with BPD here. I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? Conundrums and paradoxes and things of that nature. So I've got another phone going off I'm not going to be able to do anything about. So you're telling me here to make videos to shame drug addicts and alcoholics that choose that life, talk about how manipulative and destructive to everyone around them that they are. Okay, I better turn this off or this is not going to be able to be listened to effectively. So I think you're actually asking me to shame alcoholics and, oops, that's upside down now. Many people's lives with BPD are upside down. So you're saying here that I should shame, because I guess maybe you think I'm shaming people with BPD, but I'm not. So I have to say to you with empathy and kindness that whatever shame you may feel, or dare you think that there's something shaming in any video of mine, it's inside of you already, and it's something that awaits your attention in a recovery process to take personal responsibility. No, not because it was your fault or responsibility that this happened to you, but now it is your responsibility as an adult to do something about changing that for yourself. There's so much more life to be had than living as a sufferer, quote, sufferer of BPD, unquote. You don't have to continue to suffer. Even Marsha Linehan says that pain is inevitable in life, but suffering is a choice. So I don't know what you do with that, because at the bottom of your comment, you said, yeah, somebody who's really knowledgeable is Marsha Linehan, certainly not me. And I'm not comparing myself to Marsha Linehan, but I think, like she, I know things from the inside out. Actually, I know that. Anyway, so then, yes, I'm being encouraged to make videos that shame drug addicts and alcoholics because they choose that life. Wow, you know, how unempathic of you. And you're picking on alcoholics and substance abusers, or I'm sorry, alcoholics and addicts, like they just choose that life. No, they didn't choose that life anymore, and you chose to have borderline personality disorder. And I had two parents that were alcoholics, so hey, I know the damage they can do besides their BPD, NPD, dark triad stuff. This isn't a choice and there's no cure. It's not a choice that you got BPD, that, you know, whatever happened in your childhood, I'm sorry, you know, I have empathy for you. It's not your choice. But when you become an adult, it becomes your responsibility. And that means making other choices to maybe get DBT therapy first, to grow, to learn, to gain insight, to be able to relate better to others. But truly for that, one needs to go a little deeper than DBT, and one needs to get into a more psychodynamic process whereby you can actually recover from borderline personality disorder. You can find yourself and know yourself. And you don't need to continue to suffer the way that you are. And then you said, so by the way, you don't need a cure. Psychiatry is a pseudoscience with hegemony with Big Pharma. They are, most of them, or the profession as a whole, there are some great psychiatrists out there, I'm sure, they are not interested in helping patients to get better, their patients. They don't want to acknowledge BPD recovery because it doesn't work for them in Big Pharma. But you don't need psychiatry's cure because BPD isn't as it is defined by psychiatry. That's the pathologizing, dehumanizing model. And if you choose to believe that, that is a choice, by the way. And that choice may be motivated by the fact that you might just feel too overwhelmed or like you can't choose to find your own path of change and recovery and to living a life worth living, if not full recovery from BPD. Because I don't know why anybody with BPD believes psychiatry's BS narrative. It's just not true, and it's not proven. And neuroplasticity in the brain, I'm living proof of that because I recovered. People can recover. The brain itself can recover. So even if they find something definitive, well, you know, when this happens and your hippocampus shrinks or your amygdala is doing this, the reparative therapy in a psychodynamic modality, it changes you from your neurology, from the brain, from the neural pathways. You create new neural pathways, and neuroplasticity is real. So there is no reason, there's nothing to cling to, there's no excuse, there's no poor me that I can't change because I got BPD. I'm not saying you're saying poor me, but you know, there's an element of a victim mentality here, I believe. which I'm sure if you watch this, or I don't know if you commenters ever come back to watch if I do, see, but whatever. That's just reality. I'm going to keep it real. So I'm telling factual information and honest and sometimes a little bit brutal, but not meaning to be brutal to anyone with BPD or anyone in general at all. But I'm going to keep it real to help people heal, because there are a lot of people with BPD that do hear what I say in videos. They do become my clients, and they do heal, and they do recover. And there are a lot of people on the other side who work with me in what that process is, and maybe where that takes them to family of origin work and self-differentiation. And so, yeah. I don't need your validation or your invalidation if this is what this is. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. Whew. See? If I had BPD still, I guess I would feel all invalidated or something. So anyway, this isn't a choice and there is no cure. It's not a choice, but now it's your responsibility. That sucks. That's true. But like, you can make lots of choices to enhance and improve your life and indeed recover. You don't need psychiatry's cure. It's not even what BPD really is, because it's a trauma response. Need I say it again? People with BPD, if you want to follow, oh yes. So if you want the really knowledgeable person on BPD, and maybe the only one on the planet, Dr. Marsha Linehan, who I'm not, she's great. She's done really great work, and I think DBT is very pioneering. But I'm still waiting for the person to come along and correct me when I say DBT is not a recovery model for BPD. And Dr. Marsha Linehan has talked a lot about her research into suicidality that led her into what she created and working with people with BPD, and that it was to bring people who are very suicidal back from the precipice and self-harming, and to help them with radical acceptance, which is a gateway to change, but that's sort of like a little disguise in the beginning of the process. But DBT is not the recovery model for BPD. And if you're a loved one and you watch this and you hung in this long, I would just say, you see how they think? This is just an example of one. But the victim mentality that they cleave to is why so many people are getting hurt on the other side of so many people with BPD, and relationships are not going to be able to work out. These people don't believe they can get better. They believe psychiatry's narrative. They think there's this cure thing that's necessary, when it really is a recovery process about finding self and repairing trauma, healing and recovering from trauma, which is making BPD very much similar to CPTSD, though I don't think they're exactly the same thing. But in that people with CPTSD can recover, people with BPD can recover. And so I don't know, these commenters, I just think it's interesting that each person, I don't think this person was that, abusive or anything, but so many with BPD will say the same kind of thing, that I'm doing something to, as they say, us. But then you rail at people and say, but we're not all the same. You people with BPD, of course you don't all know each other and you're not the same, but you kind of need to get on the same page in a way, I guess, maybe. I mean, maybe that's ridiculous. So my point here is, anyway, contentious as it will be to some, there are two sides to borderline personality disorder. There is the reason why people have it and they didn't choose it, but when they get to be adult age, they're responsible for doing something about it. And there's a lot you can do about it, but not if you just kind of take that victim mentality of, oh, I can't help it, I didn't choose it. And then you right fight against anybody who tries to offer you other information, whether that might not be me in your estimation, to this commenter. But, the point is, recovery from BPD is so possible because it's a trauma response. And psychiatry is missing the boat. They're just trying to medicalize everything to their own ends. And nobody needs to be cured by any psychiatrist, because they're not really in the business of curing anything. They're in the business of pathologizing people. But more to the point, I just wanted to say, so this raucous reality of BPD, the two sides of it, people with BPD are so busy with their suffering, and I'm not making light of that, but this is how come they don't realize they're hurting you if you're the ex or the loved one of somebody with BPD. they're hurting you and they don't have the self-reference other than they know they're suffering and they're in pain, but they don't have other reference to know how they're affecting you. But in a heartbeat, they don't mind telling YouTubers what, they think is the truth and how wrong, like moi, could be, when in fact, I'm not wrong at all, but it's not about right and wrong. And they come to it in this black and white way. Well, I have BPD and I can't help it and I didn't choose it. And this commenter says, and so why don't I do some shaming videos against people who are addicts and alcoholics? Like, what? This is what people, many with BPD, will do to you if you're the boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, or wife of them. This is the way that they will, in one way or another, come from a place of devaluing and judging and trying to make themselves feel better by throwing somebody else under the bus. And in that case, it's usually you when they're in your life. And in this case, it's a commenter who's just trying to, I guess, think I'm going to be all upset because, like she said, yeah, if you want to go to somebody really knowledgeable, because she's saying to me, well, you're not knowledgeable. I'm like, okay, good, that's good. If that's what you think, nobody's making you watch my channel. And the other thing is, this narrative where these people who comment and or are just outrightly abusive to me, which is fine. That's what they got to do. I don't take it personally. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't change my day. It's just their hatred of themselves projected out because they don't know who they are. And it's not their fault what happened to them in childhood, but it's now their responsibility as adults to do something about it. And, in my recovery from BPD, it was a series of choices that felt impossible to make that I made that made the recovery possible. And so people with BPD need to learn that once you're an adult, you need to step up and you need to make that choice to want to know more, to want to discover more, to get into therapy and treatment. DBT is a great start, and then a modality after that, when you've gained even more insight and coping skills, to be able to recover and to find your lost self. Because without that, you are never going to successfully be able to love and be loved by anyone else. So I hope that this was helpful for some. I'm sure it's just going to peeve off more people with BPD, some. But I can't help that. So I'm just going to keep it real here. And I will tell the truth. And I am somebody who could describe the suffering from the inside out. Now I'm planning on doing some of that for people with BPD that really want to know how I transcended some of those things, because it is the fight of one's lifetime to do that. It is painful, but you learn how to cope it in the process. But otherwise, people with BPD walk around with these wide open, gaping, poor me victim narratives, and then they go on the Cartman drama triangle largely between victim and persecutor, and people who are dating them right now are some, not all. People who have it mostly, unless they've had a lot of treatment. People who are dating someone with BPD, or you're married to someone with BPD, or the ex of someone with BPD, and you're still feeling guilty or bad about the fact that they are the way they are. It's their responsibility now. It was never their fault. But they just go from victim to persecutor, the odd time over to rescuer if they think there's an advantage to that. And I don't mean that that's all calculated, but remember, the impact of this victim narrative of people like the commenter with BPD is not my fault. I can't change. You can't cure it. Why don't I do some videos picking on some addicts and some alcoholics? Like, the judgment, the right fighting, the digging in their heels to continue to be the victim suffering. And if you try to help them, or you dare try to love them, you overgive too much to them, a lot of them, or someone like this commenter, I don't know, the next thing you know, they're going to punish the living you-know-what out of you, because how dare you care about somebody who doesn't know who they are, and they don't care about themselves, and they don't know how to really care about you. And I'll have another upcoming video soon, along with the one that I'm going to do from the community tab people voted for. I'm going to call it the third rail of BPD, and I'm going to go there, and then I'm just going to get, what does the third rail really mean? Well, it's something that loved ones encounter in their lives with a lot of people with BPD, and it's something that I have to be careful with clients. But the third rail of BPD, it seems to be, if you talk about manipulation, You know, when you tell the truth about what they're really doing and they don't want to see it or they don't want other people to know it. And the other thing about the third rail in BPD is when I talk about how the favorite person, they don't attach. They don't love. They don't attach and love from healthy adult, consistent or congruent places. This is the third rail in BPD. This brings out the most trolls. This brings out all the people with BPD, not all, but all the ones who are going to do this, that troll and seek to abuse and, trying to hurt me with what? I'm too fat. I'm fat. I can't stop eating. You stupid fatso. You ugly this. Oh, somebody told me I look like a leather chair. You know what, people? Do what you got to do. I couldn't care less. I know who I am. I recovered from BPD, and I have your number. And maybe that is the third rail between people on the other side of the screen with BPD who happen to watch me for some reason when they don't enjoy it, they don't want to hear it, but they want to right fight against what I'm saying. Maybe because somewhere inside them they know what I'm saying is true. And I would hope that maybe some people with BPD could even get this out of this video. You have choices. Don't sit in the victim's mentality that you were victimized in childhood, you were traumatized. Step up to the plate now and take responsibility and go get help and change that and find yourself and heal that woundedness. It's so possible, it's so doable. And in the meantime, for all that won't do it or can't get to it or however we would put that, people with BPD are hurt people that are traumatized, and they're going to hurt everyone, not all of them, but the ones, the high percentage that will. They're going to hurt everybody in their lives because they don't have any self-reference and they don't have any other reference. And it's push-pull and it's I hate you, don't leave me. There's nothing healthy about all that. And they don't seem to understand that. And they keep thinking, well, if you could just love them enough, well, you know what? The more you love them, the more you push them away. The more you give them, the more you care about them, the more you have empathy even after the relationship is ended. You are wasting your time. You are allowing yourself to hurt beyond measure. And many do the cutoff, out of sight, out of mind. But it's always so many people with BPD, and I lived there once years ago. It was, and I didn't even know, but it was poor me. I can't help it. What do you want me to do about it? I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't do what you just said I did. I can't help it. Poor me. That's the essence of the tragedy and trauma of the childhoods of people and the 75% diagnosed with BPD. But the real brutal, honest truth is psychiatry is BS. You don't need to wait for their damn cure. They're never going to map recovery. You can recover, but it's not easy. And I'm going to be talking about that, like I said, amongst many other things, and for loved ones, on a new website I have coming. It's called clusterBabuse.com. It's not ready really to be looked at yet because I'm still fighting with the template. And once I finish fighting with the template, then I'll start putting up information. But it is largely for loved ones. But again, anybody with BPD who wants to find a way to get well, wants to stop right fighting, wants to look at what's really going on and how they're blocking their own way forward with the victim narrative, with the learned helplessness, with the trauma response you're still actively living in your life today, it's your choice. And make no mistake about it, unlike what the commenter says, not your choice that you have BPD, but now it's your choice what you're going to do about it. And a lot of people with BPD's choice is to stay the same, stay the victim, play the victim card, whether they know it or not, look for sympathy, be in the poor me of the victim until they jump to the persecutor. So if you're trying to love somebody with BPD today and they haven't had any treatment, really significant treatment, and they're not actively, absolutely changing in their life right now, this is what you're going to get. You're just going to keep getting more of the same. The cycles largely are explained by the Cartman drama triangle, and largely the one side of it, victim to persecutor, sometimes to rescuer, but often that's highly manipulative And that is not really usually genuine from people with BPD. So anyway, the abuse continues for me here, behind the scenes, the comments. I'm not saying that that was abusive. That was just somebody expressing their unfortunate, tragic narrative that they believe they can't do anything about it, that they're a victim of it still. They were victimized, yes, and they didn't choose that. But now they don't realize that they have many choices they could make to really find a life worth living, to not be suffering. And maybe people should think a little bit. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. Maybe they don't watch any of my videos. They haven't read over the 1,500 to 2,000 blog posts and articles I've written all over the web since 1995. I certainly do understand what it's like to have BPD. So here's the thing. I challenge people with BPD to think about, and loved ones, of course. It's not a challenge so much, but I sit here as a person recovered from borderline personality disorder, sharing with you the brutal, keeping it real, honest truth, because I want everybody to understand this, and I happen to understand it from the inside out. That's nothing to brag about, except I was determined to get well, and I found that recovery, and people can do that, and others have done that. So people with BPD today, I beseech you, stop believing psychiatry's narrative. It's convenient. It keeps you in the place that you were put in as a child. It keeps you in a victim mentality. It keeps you in a place where you're hurting and suffering, and you're causing others to hurt and suffer, whether intentional or not. And that's just the reality of the 360 view of borderline personality disorder. So I'll be doing much more here as always, and on the new site when it's ready. I'll have it up on the videos, under the videos, and I'll be doing video over there as well as audio, and audio video as well as blogging. And I'm going to have, when I find the time to finish these things, some more books coming and that type of thing. And I have some at ajmahari.com right now. And to be fair to people, at phoenixrisingpublications.com, there's a bit of a cheaper way to purchase my ebooks right now, and audio programs and bundles. And I haven't got them transferred over to the other site yet. So, and a lot of those books and audios they were done years ago now, but they still stand the test of time. Though there's much more I could add to them, and I intend to. But the 360-degree angle of BPD is, number one, psychiatry needs out of the whole equation because they're full of it. Hegemony between psychiatry and big pharma, there's no goodwill there. There are probably psychiatrists with goodwill, but I don't know how many of them are actually really helping their patients besides medicating them. And I saw a psychiatrist speaking in a video the other day from India, being asked about medications and how they're used and why. And the answers were simply asinine. There is no medication to treat BPD. People with BPD today need to stop believing the narrative because you feel so bad. You're in a world of hurt, anxiety, depression, maybe even co-occurring disorders. But I don't know what's up with that. But I believe anybody who says they have them. But what is psychiatry doing to people? I don't know. Bottom line is, so many people with BPD right now who are working hard on recovery, they are still in a world of hurt. Maybe it's a co-occurring disorder or disorders. But because also they need to take into account the side effects of the psychiatric meds that they've been taking, some people for years, some people multiple meds, it's always wisest to take zero meds. And I recovered from borderline personality, and I never took a frickin' psychiatric medication. And I walked away from psychiatrists. I think I saw 3 in total, the last one being in 1987. Well, I fired each one of their behinds because I wasn't going to take their medications. I just knew it wasn't the answer. And I'm not somebody claiming any special status of anything. I was as lost as the next person when I had BPD, but I was also equally determined because I knew one thing. I knew I wasn't really who I was meant to be way back then as a result of the trauma from a cluster B father and a BPD, NPD mother, and they were both alcoholic, and a plethora of other things in the family of origin, other diagnoses and other relatives, etc. And I was determined that I was going to find who I really was. And I was going to go through that process no matter what it took. And guess what? Anybody out there with BPD today, if that's what you want, you too can do the very same thing. But DBT is not a recovery model. And so for all you loved ones out there, I'm getting passionate now. For all you loved ones out there with somebody with BPD in your life, no treatment, not knowing, perhaps you're seeing a lot of signs, not sure, but you're probably not that wrong, but they're not diagnosed yet. You know, it's a tragedy what happens to people with BPD in their lives, why they get BPD and the pain involved. Yes, it is, absolutely. But when they refuse to get help, and many of them will struggle, it's tougher for a lot of people than it is for others. I mean, I will admit that, but I'm not saying I had an easy time of it. But what's happening to it today is, I don't know, I've gone on too long here, my goodness. But, so I'm passionate about the topic, obviously, and both sides of it. So I read the comment just to give people with BPD something to think about, and also the fact that it was at least somewhat civil. You know, the person doesn't see things like I do, that's fine. I don't see things like they do either. And we can do that respectfully, I hope. So, but again, loved ones, I have so many clients right now. People are suffering so badly. People with BPD are suffering too, but then they're causing other people to suffer. So they're exponentially spreading their suffering instead of making the choices they need to make to take personal responsibility, to get into treatment and therapy. Start with DBT. It's just not a recovery modality. Make your life better. Help your suffering, decrease your suffering if you have BPD today. You're going to be helping someone around you too. And not everybody with BPD is the same. So some people maintain relationships with family. Some people are in the 25% where a lot happens, but mom wasn't abusive. Mom isn't a cluster B, you know. So anyway, I've gone on way too long here, but I just want to say straight out, okay, if you have BPD and you're an abusive bully troll, and I'm not saying this commenter was that, just a person with BPD doesn't like what I'm saying and wanted to do a little bit of like, I don't know, whatever that was, and proclaiming the nature of how they feel they have no choice and they're remaining in a victim place, whether they know that or not. But I just want to say to all the trolls, you know, like, you call me fat, you call me ugly, I look like a leather chair. I can't remember the others because it goes pretty quick. Those are just a few of the ones I saw this morning. Yeah. So whatever, you know. Oh yeah, and the one I'm not looking well, and I'm really old, and I don't look really healthy, so hopefully I'll die soon. Well, I would say to that young millennial, dream on, dude. Dream friggin' on. Because I'm doing quite fine, thank you. I'm very strong. Might be a little bit overweight, but I'm not that much overweight. We're talking like 35, 40 pounds right now. Continue to lose it. Doing well. Very young, 62. With a lot of perseverance. Good genetics in the family in terms of longevity. And, yeah, and to the person who said on a live stream, I didn't put it through because it's just silly. Like, what's the point? We don't need more negativity, right? But I was, talking about BPD and stigma in the beginning of a live stream a little while ago, a week or two ago. And they just said their comment was, oh, just shut up. Well, guess what? If you're hoping that I'll just, shut up, nuh-uh. So if you don't want to hear what I have to say, who is it that's standing behind you making you watch these videos? Because I'm not. So again, don't let the screen hit you on the way to some other channel if that's what you need to choose for yourself. Especially if you have BPD, although I'm here. I think my messages are pretty fair, pretty bad. Well, never mind the word fair. We're not going there. That right fighting and BPD and no. But I think that I very much go to great lengths to have empathy for people with BPD and to say that not all people with BPD are the same. To keep getting commenters saying, your video is blah, blah, blah for us with BPD, for us. So you see, you people with BPD need to stop, some of you need to stop talking for everybody else with BPD, because whoever you are with BPD, you're not like the next person with BPD. You're not all the same. Remember that? Remember that point? So how can you come to me with this us? Why don't, see, that's the other thing people with BPD don't do well. And loved ones, you might know this. They don't know how to speak up for themselves. They don't know how to assert themselves. They don't know what they feel. They just get pissed. They get annoyed. They go to the victim. Poor me. You can't do this. You can't say that. They right bite. They punish. They become the victim, the persecutor. The victim, the persecutor. Many of them. But you know what that is? it's still the abdication of all personal responsibility. Oh, not my fault. What? I didn't do it. What are you talking about? And that's why I say that with social media and in this day and age, there's more gaslighting and narcissism creeping into what borderline personality really is. And that's not to say it's a narcissistic personality. But anyways, wow, I gotta shut up here. No, I shouldn't say that because somebody already told me to shut up, and I ain't ever gonna do that. Anyway, really important to pay attention to how people with BPD who have their things to share with me, which is fine, and they disagree. The abuse isn't so fine, but I just hit delete. That happens. I think it happens to all YouTubers for one reason or another. And people like that who are hurting, and this is another note for you loved ones, by the way, they will always try to insult you, put you down, or punish you where you are most, or they think, when they know you, they know where you're most vulnerable. But I'm not vulnerable to be called fat, ugly, looking like a leather chair, old, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I know who I am. I've been me for a long time. I didn't know myself for the first 28 years of my life. It's a pleasure to know me now. Like I said, that was some humility. I enjoy who I am, and lots of people that I relate to and that are friends and like family to me, they enjoy me as much as I enjoy them. And so, YouTube is a funny place to be, isn't it? Social media is a very weird space when people come along, and it's never just, even in this person's comment, it went a little far afield from that, in not a very uncivil way, but the undertones are there. It's always shoot the messenger. It's never just, hey, I don't agree with what you're saying. Or it's never an inquiry from a lot of people with BPD, why are you saying that? But then on the other hand, there's a lot of people with BPD who comment on the channel or become clients of mine, and they're like, thank you for saying this because you saved my life, and now I get this, and now I understand that. And so, my 2 cents worth would be to people with BPD out there, if you want to comment, troll, and abuse me, or a comment like that's somewhat civil and whatever, it just speaks for itself, and it is what it is from that person with BPD and what they think and how they feel, and that's their business. Why don't you try having some inquiry versus the right-fighting aspect of what's keeping you stuck in the very suffering that, as this commenter said, she didn't think I knew anything about. I know it from the inside out. And so what do you make of it now? I guess I would ask some with BPD. What do you make of it now? That I know that, but that I want to help people with BPD, yes, but that I want to help the loved ones also. I want to help the people being treated abysmally, not by all people with BPD, but by the person that they're with or were with in their lives with BPD. And all the women who are mothers, I'm not saying this is true of all, but many who are withholding their children from their exes, the male exes, could be lesbian as well, but their male exes, and men who are having to fight to see their children and to help their children have a healthy, stable role model parent, when maybe that's not what mom with BPD is. And I'm not saying all moms with BPD aren't good moms. I think many are, but lots aren't. Mine certainly wasn't. Anyway, that's enough from me right now. But I just want to say, to some comments and the bullying nature of them with people with BPD, yet they claim to be so victimized, they're just victims, and they can't help themselves, but they sure can dish it out, can't they? Not only on YouTube, but in people's lives. And that's much more important, because like I said, I just get a laugh out of these people in the background. And I'm not meaning the commenter whose comment I just read, because there are a lot of comments from people, like somebody said on another video of mine's out there somewhere, that she thought my comments were nasty and mean. Whatever, everybody's got their own perspective, so I'm not here to please or, win a popularity contest or get famous or anything like that. I'm just here to keep it real. I just know what I know about BPD. Yes, university education, etc., but that didn't teach me so much about BPD or NPD. I know BPD from the inside out. I know NPD from having been the child and then still being the adult child of one that's still alive. And yeah, the woundedness is everywhere. And so it's every person's choice that they have to make as an adult. Whether you have BPD or whether you're somebody who's being abused by somebody with BPD, you need to make that choice for yourself for change. And often loved ones are waiting for that change to come through the person with BPD. And often many of them aren't going to ever get there. Many will, and they might do it later. But everybody needs to take care of themselves. And BPD stigma, aside from psychiatry, maybe some YouTubers forward it, and maybe some would say, lots say I do. I hope I don't. But the thing is that nobody stigmatizes BPD more than the people with BPD who are acting out in people's lives, or acting in so much, but hurting people in their lives. And all over the internet with this poor me narrative of, you just got to understand us. Well, people with BPD, to those of you who know this already, excuse this. And to those of you that maybe don't and are just going to troll me back in a heartbeat, you need to realize that the world is not here to bend over backwards to you the way that your mother should have, but she didn't. And you got wounded and were traumatized. And there's nobody now that can fix that for you except you. Going to therapy, going to treatment, and making the choice. So there are all kinds of choices now today for loved ones, exes, people who don't know if they should become an ex or not, people with BPD. The average time it takes for BPD recovery is 6 to 16 years. If you're a loved one with somebody with BPD in your life right now, you probably don't have that kind of time to take the chance. There are people who will recover. There are people who will take the journey. But sadly, they're still not the majority. So everybody take care. And that's just like my little dose of reality for today.